We are Netherbolts. I am Brian Policarpio with my groupmates Rafael Ulrich de la Cruz, Mark Brian Badajos, and Mervin Kim Sumagi. And in this series, we'll be diving into virtual reality and creating a VR game using the fundamentals of Unity VR development. In this video, we will be creating a new project and we will be utilizing Unity's XR Interaction Toolkit in order to create our VR game. This chapter will be divided into different objectives that will help us throughout the video. The first objective is installing Unity with all the necessary modules and platforms so that we can develop a game in virtual reality. Next, we will dive into the XR plugin management to help us use any VR headsets we have and make it compatible with our development. We will also be installing a framework that will provide us with a couple of VR functionalities for us to develop. The last two objectives are going to be the basics of virtual reality, adding an XR origin and connecting XR controllers, which we will be tackling later on the video. The first thing we need to do is install Unity, specifically Unity Hub, which you can download on this website at unity.com/download. Once installation is complete, we are now greeted with the Unity Hub. In the Unity Hub, we can download and install different versions of Unity in the Installs category. This is where your versions of Unity will be displayed. But if you don't have one yet, then you can just click on the Installs editor and download a version of Unity that you want. Now let's select a version and click Install. You also want to make sure that you have the Android build support platform selected with OpenJDK and Android SDK and NDK tools. The reason for this is because the MetaQuest headset uses Android. After that, you can now create a new project. Make sure to select a version you want to use if you have multiple versions installed on your computer. We're going to use the 3D Universal Rendered Pipeline, or URP, because the URP will allow us to optimize the graphics for a wide range of platforms. We can now create the project. Let's just rename this VR Tutorial 2024. I'll select a Unity Cloud organization and then create project. Before we get started, we first need to consider that there are different VR headsets people use, which also have different mappings and different plugins. So we're going to install the XR plugin management. First, go to Edit and go to Project Settings. Then click on XR plugin management and install it. OpenXR is an open source standard that allows the use of different VR headsets into one for easy accessibility. After that, there are only two options that we need, the PC and the Android. Just click on the checkbox of the OpenXR and it will prompt you to restart your Unity. Just click yes and wait for the Unity to restart. As you can see in the project validation tab, there are issues shown. The reason for this is because there are no interaction profiles enabled. We can fix this by adding an interaction profile like Oculus or Meta. Since the MetaQuest 2 is the only device that we will be using, we can just add these two. But if you have any other devices like the Vive, you can add those too. We also need to add those on the Android tab. because the MetaQuest runs on Android. After that, we can just fix all the remaining issues by clicking on the Fix All button. And with that, we are done with the XR plugin management. The next step we are going to do is install the XR Interaction Toolkit. First, we go to the Window drop-down and then go to Package Manager, and in the Unity registry, we search the XR Interaction Toolkit. And then just click Install. The XR Interaction Toolkit is a high-level, component-based interaction system for creating VR and AR experiences. It provides a framework that makes 3D and UI interactions available from Unity input events. The core of this system is a set of base interactor and interactable components, and an interaction manager that ties these two types of components together. It also contains components that you can use for locomotion and drawing visuals. Now let's go to the Samples tabs and click on the Import of Starter Assets. As you can see, the starter assets of the XR Interaction Toolkit has successfully imported to the project. Now, to make it easy to differentiate objects from one another, I have added an asset that consists of different types of materials. This step is not necessary, but great to have if you want to test things out. The next step we need to do is to have a floor where we can stand on. Just add a 3D plane, and I will add a material into that plane. Now we need to add the XR origin that will handle the player and the controllers, which is us using the VR headset and controllers. What we're gonna do is right click on the hierarchy, go to XR, and add the XR origin. This will add the XR interaction manager and the XR origin or XR rig. The XR interaction manager consists of an XR interaction manager script which handles all of our interaction. And inside the XR origin, we have the main camera, the left controller, and the right controller, which each of them have different types of components inside it. As you can see, the XR controller script, which is responsible for the inputs of the controllers, isn't set up. We can fix this by using the preset input action map of the XR interaction toolkit. We just need to click this icon on the XR controller script and select a preset that corresponds to the controller. For example, we are currently on the left controller and we just need to select the XRI default left controller. This will set up the inputs automatically and make it easier for us. Now let's just do it again for the right controller, and done. Before we start testing our scene, we first need to add an object that will let us identify where our controllers are. We can just do this by simply adding a 3D object child, like a sphere, to the controllers. The sphere is too big. Let's scale it down to 0.2. Let's add another sphere to the other controller so we can see both of them when we test our scene. After that, we are finished setting up the XR interaction toolkit to our scene, and now we can test it. Here we are in our simple setup, and the scene tracks the movement of my head and my controllers.